What's going on, guys? It's your boy, CamATL. Thank you guys for joining me as always. If you've seen my videos before, you know I pretty much specialize in just talking DFS in general, pretty much. Most of my videos, I pretty much just lock in, give you guys a high five, get you on your way, get you started, kind of break down players and stuff like that. In this video series, I'm going to make it a series where I'm going to go video by video, breaking down MLB DFS and what I like to do, my personal opinion on what I like to do to prepare myself, to put myself in the best position to be successful. All right. My website, greenlightdfs.com. You can check that out if you want to. If you're not aware of me, you can check that out. I have an optimizer, all types of cool stuff over there on the website for MLB, NBA, and soon to be NFL. Anyway, so in this video, I'm pretty much just going to be breaking it down. Now, this first episode, we're going to talk about finding the right offense stacks. Okay? Finding the right stacks. Like, how do you go about getting the right stacks, the right players from the right stacks, so you can really hit those big takedowns where all your bats are part of the highest scoring team, and how you see these pros out here, pros that are max entering, with just so many points. It's like, wow, how is that even possible? It's because time is taken in that. And I'm going to break down the strategy I use, and by no means is it easy. All right, let me start off by saying that. By no means is it easy, just like everything else in life. If you want to be successful at something, you got to work hard at it. You got to really put some effort into it. Okay, so anyways, in baseball, the number one thing is first things first. You want to get your pitching right, and then you want to focus on bats. All right, I'll have a separate video where I talk about how to get my pitching right. But in this video, we're going to talk about offense, how to find the right bats. All right, now if I take a sip of this from every once in a while, you know, I'm just parched and trying to stay hydrated. Anyways, so let's get straight into it. Now, starting off, finding the right stacks, the first thing you really got to look at is what pitchers that you want to stack against. You got to find the right pitchers. You got to kind of break it down. For me personally, I'll find about 3 pitchers on the slate. Now, I'm not much of a max enter guy. If I felt like it, then yes, I could be. But I don't really feel like it. I like spending more time making the videos for you guys and answering questions than I do having to put together 150 lineups every night. That's just not my thing. That's not what makes me happy. People's screenshots and happiness from winning is what I do this for. All right? So, first things first, you have to find the pitchers you want to stack against. Now, to do that, you have to pretty much break these players down. You have to look at the pitchers. Now, when it comes to certain pitchers, I don't even research them. Like Garrett Cole, Verlander, some of these pitchers, I'm not going to stack against them much. So most of the time, I already pretty much know what I'm getting out of them, and I don't really research them. I'm talking about, I will go from the pitchers from about, I'd say 8,000, that are about priced at about 8,000 and below, and I'll check all of their numbers. All right, and what I mean by that is I will go to Mlb.com. Pretty much, I'll go to the official website. I will look at their whip, which means whip is when they're just pretty much, whip will kind of determine whether a high whip tells you that batters are just getting the bat on the ball, they're getting on base, and it's not good for pitchers. The higher the whip, the worse it is for a pitcher, okay? The lower the whip, the better the pitcher is, because that means batters aren't really getting the bat on the ball, aren't doing much with the pitches that they're throwing at them, okay? So lower the whip, better the pitcher. Higher the whip, pitcher you need to focus on. Now, if I do that, it's because I got to brighten the screen back up. Anyways, so there you go. First things first. Now, I like to break down the splits. Okay, they're righty-lefty splits and see what kind of pitcher they are. Now, there's pitchers in the league who struggle a ton versus lefties. There's pitchers in the league that struggles a ton versus righties. There's right-handed pitchers that struggle a ton versus lefties. There's right-handed pitchers that struggle a ton versus righties, and vice versa. Same with lefties, all right? So you don't want to automatically assume, oh, this pitcher's right-handed, I need to stack all the lefties against them, because sometimes you might want the righties against them. But anyways, that's the first thing you do. You want to look at the splits, the lefty-righty splits, all right? So what I like to do is I like to break down all those pitchers. I will go every single one that I don't know 100% is great. Like, outside of the Garrett Coles of the world and the Verlanders and stuff like that, I will break all of them down. I will look at their year before stats numbers for their splits. I will look at the year of, where we're at right now, and I'll kind of combine them and get an idea of where these guys are. Now, once I find the 3, I will order them. All right, I'll find my pitcher I want to stack the most against, the pitcher I really want to get exposure against, the pitcher I want to add to the other stack, and then the pitcher I'm happy to one off against. All right? So that was finding the pitcher I want to play the most against, which I want to get like 4 or 5 bats against or whatever. The next pitcher where I want to get a couple bats from, and then the next pitcher I want to one off against. Okay? All 3 options are going to be great batters, right? Because I'm playing them against guys who aren't good. Okay? Well, at least haven't been good, and their numbers don't suggest they're good. Most of the time, a bad pitcher is not going to come out and strike out a ton of guys. Okay? Now, when you look at bats, there's a lot of guys who are super cheap bats that can score just as much as the big-time bats. Like Mike Trout could score the same amount as David Fletcher. Even though they might be 2,000 off, David Fletcher could match him. Okay? So it's very important to realize that when it comes to, don't sacrifice your pitching for hitting. Okay? So after you get your pitchers right, okay, whatever your pitchers end up going, you need to have the pitchers that you want, and then you do what I'm telling you to do. All right? So this is a long process. So this is mainly for people who really have time. I mean, the longer you take, the more depth you go into, the more success you'll find with it. Okay? Doing this strategy, I have found that a lot of times, like the Roto Grinders of the world, the Fantasy Labs, Number Fire, Roto Wire, there's a million sites that you can go off of. Okay? A million sites that give a whole bunch of different things. Now, a lot of these sites, for example, yesterday's slate, there was a pitcher, last name Howard, for Philly, that all of these sites were promoting to use because he's a $4,000 pitcher and, oh, you got a game in course. In my opinion, that's just not the accurate way to play MLB DFS. Okay? Now, if you find success with that, you will from time to time. But to sacrifice your bats, to sacrifice your pitching, getting a 4,000 pitcher, which, by the way, I looked at his numbers and he's not good. Okay? He hasn't shown any signs of being good. All right? He's not a great pitcher. There's no reason to play him unless you think Coors is going for like 20 runs. But you don't need to try to predict that. Okay? Because like I said, the Mets could score just as much as Colorado could in Coors Field. All right? The Mets at home in New York could score the same amount of runs as Colorado can at Coors. Okay? So and at the same time, you just got to really pay attention to these things, okay? A lot of these sites sometimes will just take the easy way out, and they'll be like, look, this is what I want to promote, and they'll just promote it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, do the numbers back that up, though, okay? And that's what you got to understand. So, anyways, I rank my top 3 pitchers, and what I mean by top 3 pitchers, my top 3 pitchers I'm going to stack against. My most stackable, my second most stackable, and then my one-off, okay? Then, after I find the pitchers that I definitely want to stack against, I'll keep all 3 of their pages up. On pages, okay? I'll keep them up, their tabs open on my browser, all right? So I'm easily able to click and verify because if you're like me, I have a very short memory. I'll end up being like, oh, what was that picture? Blah, blah, and I'll have to go back and check it multiple times throughout the day, okay? Now, once I have that broken down, I've got my 3 pitchers. Where I like to go from there is I look at the offenses that are going against those pitchers, okay? So let's say the offense I end up wanting exposure to is Philly. Philly's playing my biggest guy I want to stack against, right? Now, the pitcher that I want to stack against, he has a 280. He gives up a 280 batting average versus righties and a 350 versus lefties. So what that tells you is he's really not good versus righties or lefties, so you can full stack if you want, but you want to really focus in on the lefties. So if there's any cheap lefties batting in the heart area of that order, you definitely want to get them, right? Now, a lot of times I will want the best bat from there. Okay, depending on what value we have on the slate in general. So, for instance, if I end up deciding, I want to stack Philly, okay, and it's a right-handed pitcher and he struggles big time versus lefties, who do you think I'm going to want? Bryce Harper. Okay, so a lot of times I'll start with Bryce Harper and then I'll go from there and I'll get other pieces. Okay, and now I will spend up for Bryce Harper, but that's only if we have other value on these other teams that I find I want to stack. Okay, and I'll do this same process. I will go through the projected lineup because in the morning when I'm starting my research, we just have projected lineup. It's not official till closer to lock. So I will take the projected lineup and I will pretty much make my decisions on the bats that I want from that lineup, okay? You really want to get if there's any like 2,500 or less guys from that lineup, that's very interesting and something you really need to take in consideration, especially if the guy's been hitting well. Okay, but you need to check all their numbers, okay? Check the numbers, check the batter's numbers, check how they are versus lefties and righties pitchers, or check how they are versus that pitcher's hand in this. Check how they've been hitting so far this year. check out how their long-term numbers have been, and just combine them and choose the right guys there, okay? Now, I have found a lot of times you'll find success doing that, okay? So let's break down where we are so far. So far, first things first, to find the right stacks, you need to find the right pitchers you want to target against. Now, before you do all of this, get your pitchers right. Get your pitchers right first, okay? I just want to stress that. Pitching is the most important thing, and then you do this next part, okay? I will do another video talking about pitching down the line, but right now, we're focused on stacks. So, all right, what are we on? All right, so first things first. What I do, I'll find my 3 pitchers I want to stack against. So the most stackable guy, and I will rank them from the worst pitcher, in my opinion, down the line to the 3rd worst, okay? But even this worst pitcher, right, that I want to one-off against is a bad guy, and I want to play the lefties or righties against him that are in great spots, okay? And how I decide that, I will go through each of those offenses. I will look at all of their numbers. I will also open tabs, look at their numbers. I'll have a million tabs open throughout the day, okay? It is work, okay? It is an actual job to play DFS for a living, okay? Because if you're not putting that much work in, then you're just not going to succeed, and then it's probably not going to be your full-time job, okay? So if you're really trying to make money to like pay bills and stuff like that, you really need to put the effort in. You really need to do the research in general that it takes to be successful, okay? I understand there's a lot of people in the world who want easy money, who want to just find easy ways to make money and not have to put work in for it. But at the end of the day, it's just not realistic. There are very rare cases where people won't have to do shit and get paid a ton, okay? Most of the time, the highest paid people in the world are having to do the most work, okay? You might not see it all, you might not recognize it, but they're having to do the most work, all right? So, once I find that, and I've broken it all down, and I figured out, okay, this team's the one I want to stack the most against, then after I get that stack completed and I get everything I want from that, I will then get the few players from the next, like 2 or 3 players from the next one, and then I'll find the one-off guys I want to use from the next one, okay? In every single bat, okay? I don't focus too much on, like, if I end up having a righty-righty matchup in my lineup, it's because the numbers suggest that that pitcher is a reverse split pitcher, if he's a righty, right? And he's worse versus righties than lefties. That's the only way I will do that. Most of the time, the righty-lefty split will make sense. Most of the time, the right-handed bats will be better versus left-handed pitching. But that's not all the time, okay? Sometimes you got, for example, sometimes you'll have guys who are reverse splits. Sometimes you'll have right-handed pitchers who are just better versus lefties than righties, and you want to play righties against them, okay? Plain and simple. Now, you have to do the research to really know that. You don't want to just assume, okay? A lot of people in the industry, too, have come to me and is like, oh, Cam, should I play this guy because he's facing this guy and he's a lefty-righty matchup? And then I look into it, I do the research, and it shows me that that pitcher is actually worse versus righties than lefties. So already the guy's just assuming what he's heard from so many people and saying, okay, lefties, I have to play lefties against a right-handed pitcher just because that's just what I'm supposed to do. That's not the case, okay? You need to figure out if this guy is, in fact, that type of guy. Now, a lot of times it will be, but you want to verify that, okay? Now, once you get all that done, you're in a good spot. It's really just about, at that point, putting it all together. All right, figuring out where the spots are to spend up and get the main players from certain stacks, and where to save salary in certain. Now, I will try my hardest to stick to those 3 offenses that I told you that I've landed on. Okay, those 3 offenses that are targeting the worst pitchers and the pitchers I want to target against. Okay, I will try my hardest to stay in that, because with baseball, stacking is pretty important, right? But sometimes you can get some one-offs sprinkled in there that are also in just fantastic matchups, and you can get them exposed too. So I will branch off and look at more bats. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll take like a 4th or 5th pitcher from time to time. If I'm struggling to get my lineup put together perfectly, if it's not coming together, well, most of the time I can take the 3 offenses and make a lineup no problem, right? I don't struggle too much making a lineup from it, right? But if I'm struggling to find value or something, I need more value, I will broaden it up a little bit and look at my value options and bring some value into the lineup, maybe from outside games, okay? But every value that I'm using, I'm not just using for no reason. The numbers back it up. And like I said, you don't have to rely solely on these sites like RotoGrinders, Fantasy Labs, RotoWire, even Greenlight DFS Optimizer. You don't have to rely solely on Greenlight DFS Optimizer and roll with it, Okay? You need to use the numbers to really back it up. Okay? Don't just take people's word for it. All right? Really do your research. Now, the more work you put in, like I've said already in this video, the more you will get out from it. Okay? Plain and simple, it is what it is. Now, if you don't have much time during the day, start the night before. Okay? A lot of people, the reason I have greenlightdfs.com, and I started Greenlight DFS to help people and put lines together and help people kind of get more success without having to put much work in, is because I understand. People have 9-to-5 jobs, don't have the time to do this, and a lot of times they love sports, loves following it, but they're not successful and can't consistently win because they don't have the time to be successful. I have been able to make my full-time job playing DFS because I've just been playing for so long, and I know the exact strategy that I want to use, and I just stick to it. Do I have off nights? Of course. Do I have big nights? Of course. It's going to happen. Now, the more research you do, the less you're going to have those down nights. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have those times where you're going up like this. Your bankroll's just going up, and then you drop down, and then you're just up, and you're sitting here flat again. Good nights, and then you're down, and then you're flat again. So at the end of the year, you're more flat than you're down. Okay? You know what I mean? So you're getting some profits at the end of the year, and that's the main thing. Even if you're not playing a huge bankroll, okay? Even if you're not playing a huge, gigantic bankroll like these sharks do, all right? You're paying $50 a day, right? If you're smart with it and you use proper bankroll management, which I will do in another episode of this series, all right? You can build that bankroll and you can actually pay bills with it, okay? There are members of my website that I know firsthand pay mortgage with winnings from DFS. They pay light bills. They pay water bills. They're able to pay some bills and take some stress off of their everyday life from just playing a game we love in DFS. All right, this strategy that I'm telling you, finding the offenses and what pitchers to stack against, blah, 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 that works for FanDuel and DK. It's the same situation on both of them. All right, on FanDuel, it is paramount that you get the right pitcher, just like DK. Both sites is the same thing. Get your pitcher right, and then find those 3 teams you want to use, okay? Also, last thing I want to touch on, a big thing that people do is they will just take what Vegas says and run with it, all right? Vegas totals don't mean shit, plain and simple, all right? Vegas is going to have Coors Field at the top of it every single night. Does that mean it's going to happen? No, it doesn't. You need to do your research and see if there's a reason for that. Okay, if Vegas has Colorado projected scoring 7 runs, you look at the numbers. The pitcher they're facing is a really solid pitcher. All right, the bats aren't equaling out to working out there. You don't have to do it. Okay, because if the matchup doesn't work, you don't force it. Don't force it just because Vegas says 7 runs. Now, on the other hand, don't get me wrong. Coors Field is a very important field that you want exposure to when the matchup is there. Okay, when you have one of those, remember how I told you, I'll hold my water. Remember how I told you I'll find those 3 pitchers I want to pick on. If one of those 3 pitchers happen to be in Coors, great. Okay, but I don't force myself on that. Okay, I get my pitching right, and then if I'm able to get Coors fitted in, cool. You know what I mean? But outside of that, I don't sacrifice my pitching for my hitting. And I want that to be a big main thing. And we're going to talk about pitching. I'm going to have pitching as a separate episode of this series. This series is going to have multiple episodes touching on different parts of it. We're going to break down piece by piece and really try to help everybody understand how they can come and actually find success in DFS. Okay? Because it's not just all about max entering and stuff like that, like the Sharks. You can find success in cash games and GPPs even by just doing research. Okay? If you're able to outwork the other people, you're easily going to beat them more times than not. Now, there's a lot of variance in baseball. There's going to be times things don't work out, and that's a DFS in general. Things aren't going to work out, but the process stays the same. All right? I love to use Mlb.com and go through all of this information they have. They have a lot of information on there. Mlb.com will have the splits information, all types of information you can find. You've got baseball reference. You've got Fangraphs. All types of information outside of the ones like RotoGrinders, Fantasy Labs, RotoWire that push you on certain players, and you just say, okay, they say that's good, so I'm going to go with it and move on. No, you don't want to just do that. You want to do your research and be for sure about it. Okay? Do your research, be for sure about it, find those pitchers you want to stack against, And most of the time, those stacks will work out for you, and you'll be good to go, and you'll be able to make some money in DFS. Comment below if there's anything in this series you really wanted me to make sure that I touch on. One more thing, a lot of people ask me, what do I prioritize? What kind of stacking do I like to do? The 1, 2, 3, 4, or what type of stacks do I like? 4, 4, 4, 3, whatever, right? I like whatever comes together the right way. Plain and simple. Stop putting too much pressure on yourself to make something one certain way, and it has to be that way. Don't do that. All right? Put it together. Get it to where you feel the happiest and you're the most confident. Regardless if it's a 1, 2, 3, and then you're 3 from another game and 2 from another game, that's on you. You do whatever you want to do that makes you feel the best. But what you need to make sure of is that every single bat you have in that lineup, their numbers represent why you have them in that lineup. Every single stack you're choosing against those pitchers, the numbers show why that's the case. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, you'll find a lot of success. And do that, and most of the time, you're going to find the right stacks, you're going to hit, and you're going to just profit. But it takes time, it takes effort, and you'll be good to go. All right? Good luck, y'all. I hope you kill it. GreenlightDFS.com. Join the squad if you want to. Also, my Greenlight DFS optimizer for the people who want to play GPPs and get just 150 lineups, people who don't have time to do all this research I'm talking about. Greenlight DFS. We have it for MLB, NBA, and soon to be NFL for this next upcoming season. So check it out. Thank you guys for joining me as always. Drop that like down below. And like I said, anything you want me to add to this series, let me know down in the comment section. Peace.